She shares her story to show what's possible and offer help to others facing challenges of their own. Hey, Prue.
Hey,
Well done.
thank you. So, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Prue. As Graham has nicely introduced me, this is a bit about my story, my personal story. I give it in the hope that I can provide hope to some people, maybe some extra ideas on things to do. And if anybody wants to chat afterwards or to get me in contact with other people, then just reach out. So the only time you should look back is to see how far you've come. So again, thank you even for the opportunity for me to do this. My presentation is mainly just photos. I think photos tell a lot, and my ability to go back and look at the photos, there we go. My ability to go back and look at the photos is just as precious to me as I hope it is to you. So who am I? I'm Prue. I come from Dunedin, born and bred. I grew up on a lifestyle block in a place called Prue Young. It's about 40 minutes out of town. I was very, very privileged. We got to go to the beach, we got to run around, we had bikes, we had tree houses. It was wonderful. I then moved into Dunedin when I was about 11 and went to St Hilda's Collegiate School. Here we go, there's Dunedin. So in the link to MS, obviously I'm quite a wee way away from the equator, and whether or not that's linked me into why I've got my MS, I always wonder. Bit of an interesting random fact, there were 3 of us who were born within 12 months of each other, who lived within 2 kilometres of each other out in the country, who have all ended up with MS. Wonder why. I come from a family of 4. I have 1 younger sister, my mum and my dad, and my family are now spread all over New Zealand, and my sister lives in Bristol in the UK. I'm very lucky again though, we grew up with a lot of cousins and family around, so I was very privileged. When I was at high school, I found a love of sport. I don't have any pictures from back then for you, but I used to get into triathlon, starting with the Kiwi Kids Triathlon when you were little. Did a bit of everything, swimming, etc. Was representative for Otago for water polo, and wasn't really sure exactly where I was going with my life and my career while I was at high school, but thought, I'll go and do medicine. I'll come back to that in a wee bit. Obviously, you've already heard what my current job is. But I really enjoy the outdoors. So I go tramping a lot. A few years ago, I did the South Island of the Te Araroa, so that's walking from Picton all the way down to Bluff. I took 3 months off work and managed to walk most of it. I can't claim that I've walked every single step of it. I did hitchhike a little bit, and it was a wonderful journey. So if anybody's interested in getting into tramping, I'm here. Also like to get out into the mountains. The snow is beautiful, and it's part of exercise and sport, which has probably been what's kept me going in my journey. Taking the ability to have a hot drink, watching the sunset or the sunrise is just magnificent. So little things like that I can reflect on are what's got me to where I am. Next picture is of the Te Araroa. That was the top position. Again, I'll come back to this a little bit later, but the TA was a really special time for me, as it actually was post my diagnosis. We're getting there. Part of my career, I've moved around the country. I started off in Dunedin, moved to Timaru, and then moved to Taupo, and this is where I got into my endurance sports that people have been indicated I like to take part in. I initially got dared into doing a half Ironman. Now my story behind that is because one of my friends fought breast cancer. She dared me to do the half Ironman knowing that I could actually already swim because she had had to learn to swim, and how could I say no? So over the course of about 9 months, I got myself a road bike. I learnt to run because I wasn't really a runner, even though I'd been into triathlon. I was more into the other bits and sports, and presented myself at the half Ironman in December. At the end of that, went out for coffee, and she said, "Oh, you're doing the full in March, aren't you?" So in less than 12 months, I went from having not done anything Ironman length to doing a full Ironman. Now, a full Ironman, for those who don't know, is a 3.8 kilometre swim. So that takes me about an hour and 10 minutes, but you've got up to 2 hours and 20 minutes to complete that. You then come out, and a full Ironman bike ride is 180 kilometres. So 180 kilometres at the moment would take me about 6 to 6.5 hours. That's with it's training, obviously, and people range from doing it in crazy under 4 hours through to you have about 8.5 hours to complete it. It's also a marathon. So this is all in one day. You do 42.2 kilometres as a marathon at the end. And so my first Ironman I completed in just under 14 hours in total. It took me about 13 hours and 55 minutes. This was pre-diagnosis. This is before I was diagnosed with MS. So I got hooked. I stupidly went back the following year and did it again. Because you do. So here's just a couple of pictures of my second Ironman. So they're both in Taupo, beautiful place. I was lucky with the first two that I did that the weather was lovely, as you can see by the pictures. But the weather changed when I did my third one. We'll get to that. I then decided for career purposes that I would move back to the South Island. Since I was a young kid, I had always thought that I'd like to do the coast to coast. So now I was sort of a Sunday athlete, I may be, maybe a little bit of an endurance athlete, and why don't you go and do the coast to coast? So for those of you who don't know what the coast to coast is, that's where you start on the west coast of the South Island, just below Greymouth, touch the water on one side, you then do a 50k bike ride, a 33k mountain run. In my situation, I did the 2-day individual, so at that end of the mountain run you stop, you have a sleep, and then you get up. Next day, we go for a kayak, 70k kayak, and then a 70k bike ride. You get to the other side, and you can touch the water in Brighton and Christchurch. Little did I know that this is where my journey with MS was starting. About 3 weeks later, I started to present with my symptoms. I thought that I had sciatica. I do a lot of sport, sit on a mountain bike, sit on a road bike. Oh, my leg doesn't feel normal. So I didn't really think much of it to start off with. Talked to a couple of friends. They said, oh, well, see if it goes away, go see a physio. Nothing else is happening. Then one day, I put my leg into the hot water, the shower, and I couldn't feel hot and cold. Oh, something's not quite right here. So my journey started. I call it my journey because at all points through my journey, I tried to stay positive. I hope that I can show you that I'm a positive person. But even if it was just one little step, it was a step in the right direction. If I could get myself off the couch to go and do a little bit of exercise, I knew that that was going to help me in the long run. So I encourage people, wherever you are on whatever journey, to do a little step to get off the couch. Just do something small each day. During my diagnosis journey, I was really lucky. I had amazing friends, and I was already entered into a team competition. So we decided to just have a party. We dressed up as fairies and had our skirts and had an amazing day out. Now, they also knew the journey that I was going on with neurology, not knowing exactly what was going on. My GP at this stage had advised me that while exercising was good, I probably needed to slow down a little bit. And I said, maybe not. I continued on with this event, but I did things differently. And this is some of the ideas I'd like to be able to give you. And again, kind of links back into making it work for you. I started swimming a bit more because swimming was safe for me. There was always a lifeguard there. If something happened, they'd be able to help me. I joined aqua fitness classes and went aqua jogging, and aqua fitness was fantastic. I had 2 friends who were pregnant at the time, and so they were able to go to the aqua fitness classes with me, and we used to dance our hearts out in the pool. Occasionally I would fall over and we'd just have a bit of a giggle, and one day the tutor said to me, how come you keep falling over? It's your friends that you're here to support. Little did she know that they were actually supporting me. But with that, I started to pull together my support group. So again, one of the ideas from before lunch was about having your community. At this stage, I still didn't have my diagnosis, but I knew that I needed friends who were supportive. So I'm lucky. I've got a really cool group of friends. This is Lucy. Lucy would go to the gym with me and would go to the pool, go swimming. I also started looking for people with neurological conditions once I knew that that was the case. I got diagnosed with MS, luckily only about 2 to 3 months. I think it was about 11 weeks after that presentation in my leg. And I found the Facebook groups. So within the Facebook groups, there was a lot of support, and I found that there was a side group that was people who do multisport. There's a few people around the world who have continued to do endurance sport, and I was told initially that this is probably not going to happen anymore, but I wasn't prepared to listen to that. We also made sure we had fun. What that did for me was it allowed me to grow and believe in myself again. Obviously, with a diagnosis, your world changes forever, and it's what you make out of it. If you look back at my history in doing endurance sports, obviously I can be quite driven, but it was a real shock. As part of my diagnosis, I was stood down from my job. And that was a big part of my life. And I was also told that I wasn't going to be able to do my endurance sports anymore. So you can imagine the mental struggle that I had in terms of where do I go, what do I do? I had one person tell me, oh, you'll be lucky if you're not in a wheelchair in 5 years. I had numerous people say, oh, my mother's friend, my grandma, my X, Y, and Z. One of the big things that I want people to be able to do is to educate. So educate yourself first and then educate others, because I'm still living with MS now and will be for the rest of my life, but I don't plan on being that person, and I don't want your vision of what MS is to be imprinted on me. So I kept going with my life. I got a lot of support. I finished my master's in aeromedicine. Thank you to my supervisor who was able to support me through that first year and a half after my diagnosis to get me an extension. I got onto medication, which has been lovely, but I also just want to stop and say it's not all positive. So in this picture you can probably see that I'm crying. It's frustrating. I'm not positive all the time. I get tired. I get emotional. We're human. If we don't acknowledge it, then we can't share it with somebody else. And if we don't share it, then we're not going to process it. So again, find your community. Find the people that you can talk to. Whether or not it's family or friends, it doesn't matter. Choose your family friendship group that's going to support you to become more positive, to move forward. I've also had a lot of injuries. Whether or not that is MS related or not, we don't know. I like to fall, I like to twist, I like to break. So that's frustrating. I've had anxiety. What ifs? Am I going to be able to keep working? Am I going to be able to keep doing my exercise? So I want you to know it's normal. We all have issues when it's a diagnosis like MS, but you can get through it. I've lost a relationship out of this. I was told to harden up and move on. Comes out of it that he probably didn't have an understanding of what MS was. But again, another example of these things are part of life. They happen, but you can still be positive. And sometimes out of the bad comes the most amazing things. Once I'd got through the first year-ish of my diagnosis, I already had an entry into an Ironman that had been cancelled due to COVID. So what do you think I did next? You have to start training again. But this time it was a different training. I was training for my health. I was training for me. But the event, if I got to do the event, was going to be for everybody else. It was a real change in mindset from being in competition with myself to make sure that I could get to the end to I'm doing this to look after myself. I've got the entry. If I make it to the start line, that's fantastic. If I make it to the end, that's amazing. So 12 months later, we went to Taupo again, the third time. Obviously, this time was completely different for me. This one was lovely. It was cold. Didn't have any MS symptoms. I jumped on the bike and it started to bucket with rain. It was a bit of fun, very different to my first two, like I said, but I just managed to have fun. I stopped along the way to help somebody change their tyre, and she said, "Oh, don't you want to get back into your competition?" I said, "I'm not here for a competition. I'm here to have fun, smile at people, and help where I can." So it was a complete change. I just wanted to be out there doing it. And this is an Instagram clip that I will just play you, which I made. So bear with me if anybody else has already seen it.
I'm unstoppable. I'm a Persia with no brakes. I'm invincible. I never seen you so powerful. I don't need batteries today. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today.
So the person who gave me my medal in the yellow t-shirt, that's Maurice. She's the one that beat breast cancer and dared me to my first Ironman. And obviously my father was there as well. Still makes me feel proud. You'll also notice that in the photo, both that one and this one, you can see that I've got wings on. That's the wings of a monarch butterfly, which is also an MS butterfly. I was there for everybody else. By the time I got to the finish line was for everybody else. What happened from that point on is, while it took me 16 hours and 40 minutes that day to complete an Ironman, I knew that one of my really close friends had done really well in our age group. For the Ironman competition for the World Ironman Championships, there's a ceremony on the following Sunday where they give out the positions to go to the World Ironman Championships. I decided that I would get up early and I'd go and support her because there was a chance that she was going to get to go. That was going to be amazing. I thought at this stage, look, I've just completed an Ironman. I'm on top of the world. I'm probably never going to make it to the World Ironman Championships, although that had been a goal earlier in my life. So why not go and see her, and then we'll go out for lunch afterwards. So I don't have any pictures of this, unfortunately, but I rocked up to the roll down ceremony on the Sunday morning. I hadn't taken my wallet, and I said to my dad before he came down to join me, "Can you just grab my wallet just in case?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, if I get a position there, then I'd have to pay for, a deposit." And he's like, "You won't get a position, babe. You were at 16 hours and 40 minutes. I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, all right." So we walked along. My friend Britt, she ended up with a position to go to the World Ironman Championships. And that year was the year that they had decided they were going to separate the female and the male competition for World Ironman Championships. So there was extra spots. They started rolling down through my age group. They had 5 spots to give, and they got to about the 10th in my age group, and there was 2 spots to go. They then started calling out names, and there was nobody there. They called some more out, and there was nobody else there. They called some more out, and I started doing some calculations in my head because I knew that there was a couple of my age group that were below me, and we were starting to get close. I looked at my dad and I looked at my partner, and they were oblivious to what was going on. And sure enough, 2 positions later, my name was called. I got to go to the World Ironman Championships because I had got my wallet from my father, but also because I turned up to support my friends, because my attitude had changed to the Ironman competition, and because I was there for everybody else to support everybody else at the competition, and I had had the benefits of the training and the nutrition to start off with. So the training started again. This time 9 months later, I rocked into Hawaii. Kona, Hawaii is where the World Iron Championships were this year. Most of the time they're there. They did for a few years roll them into Europe, but I was lucky to go to Kona, which is the birthplace of Ironman, for the World Ironman Championships. So again, we're going to do 3.8 kilometres of swimming, 180k of bike riding, and 42.2k of running. I was picked up by the World Ironman Federation to be one of their inspiring speakers. There was a group of us who had different medical conditions or different history. I was on a speaking panel, which was awesome, and it was really, really supportive. The actual competition day was beautiful. We watched the sun rise to the opening ceremony. I went for my swim and the water temperature was about 27 degrees. There was turtles, there was dolphins, and I came out super happy of the swim. The swim was slightly longer than my previous swimming, but it was because it was sea conditions and not a lake condition. And there was a whole lot of really fast people there, which I just decided I wasn't going to keep up with. The bike ride, 180k bike ride. How was the temperature that day? It got up to 38 degrees. This is a lava field, so beside the road is also black. And the humidity, somewhere between 80 and 85% that day. It was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. I had to put in strategies to maintain my ability to keep going. I wore a cooling ice necklace, which every aid station I would stop and get ice. Ended up putting ice down my cycle pants. I had to have a huge amount of fluid, and to make sure that my body systems were working properly, I would have to stop and get off and go to the toilet. But if I didn't have that fluid, I knew I was going to have problems. And then my nutrition was also part of it. That's part of doing an Ironman and doing endurance sports, which I won't talk about. At the end of the day, I also completed the World Ironman Championships. Now again, it took me 16 hours and 20 minutes, so slightly faster than my Taupo time, even considering all the conditions. But my World Ironman Championship is for all of you. Making it to the start was my proud moment. Providing my medal today so that you can all see my medal and you can all touch it and feel it and hold it, I hope gives hope to everybody that is in the room. Whatever your story, wherever you are, things happen on your journey that you don't expect. And if you share them and you can change one person's life with that, that's power, that's important. That's how we work as a community. So anybody who wants to come up, have a look at my medal, have a conversation about it, please, please feel free to do so. This is me at the end. I still managed to have a smile. Can't say I was like that for the next week, but I was very lucky to have my family with me and my partner with me. But since then, I haven't really done a huge amount of endurance sports. I trained to do the coast to coast, which I don't have pictures on here again, unfortunately injuring myself at work. So I ended up joining a team and doing the kayaking only. I currently have an entry into the coast to coast next year, although you might see me limping around. I had surgery 8 weeks ago on that same injury on my ankle, so we'll see how I go. MS has also given me a lot of other blessings. I have met Graham through being part of the MS New Zealand committee. 3 years ago now, they advertised for emerging committee members. As part of my life and my career, I'm a paramedic, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute, but I wasn't sure where I'm going with that. I'm kind of at the top of my career when it comes to being a paramedic. I don't know that I'll be able to do shift work forever. I don't know that I'll be able to continue to do my job in the capacity if I was to have a relapse or a flare. So I've always looked at other options as to what I could do. I decided to apply for the emerging committee member position, having no understanding of governance apart from to say, I want to be able to help people and I want to be able to help more than just one individual person. I want to be able to help the wider people. So I was successful. This is the committee that I'm part of. There's been a little bit of change, but not many. And it's led me on a governance process. I then got involved with MS Nelson Tasman. I became the Vice President of MS Nelson Tasman this year, and I've also been successfully on the MS IF, which we've talked about, International Federation People with and affected by MS expert panel group. So I'm hopeful that me being part of these committees and groups is helping a lot of other people. It's helping a lot of other people drive. So, last thing to go to, because I don't always talk about this, but it is a great part of my life. I am a critical care flight paramedic. I work on the Nelson Marlborough Rescue Helicopter. When I was diagnosed 5.5 years ago, I was already working on the rescue helicopter. It's an amazing job. We have an amazing area in Nelson, and I get to do a lot of different work. I have luckily been able to stay in the job. I've had a lot of support, and because of my exercise and my endurance sport, I've been able to keep working. This is Peter. Peter was tramping last year on one of the mountain ranges in behind Tākaka, and he has nicely allowed me to show you a video. He actually, his friends took a whole lot of videos and photos and he sent them to me. So I thought you'd probably like to see what I do for my job. That on the bottom of the winch wire is me. So about 17-18% of the jobs that we go to in the helicopter require winch access. As part of my training and obviously as part of my job, I winch into all sorts of remote areas and take kit down. Graham talked about me being on the First Responders. There was a First Responders Season 2 episode, which is all about a job that I did in the Marlborough Sounds. Unfortunately, it's not online at the moment. It will probably go back up. But if you ever see Season 2 of First Responders, the last episode is all of me. We, as paramedics, take our skills to the patient, then get the patient out safely and get them to the hospital. So I'm very lucky in multiple aspects of my life to be able to give back to multiple people. I'm also very, very lucky that I get to do the job that I do with MS. Coming to the end of my talk, I just wanted to go back and hit the points that I hope you've already seen from this. One is stay positive, which isn't on there, but I hope you can see that staying positive is really important to me. But find your support community. Whether or not that's through the MS Society, whether or not that's through your friends and family, the neurologist, whoever it is, find a community to support you. It's vital. Keep moving, just one step, whether or not that's physical, sleep, nutrition, moving towards a goal. Keep moving forward. You never know what you're going to be able to achieve, and I certainly didn't think that I would be where I am now, especially at my MS diagnosis. And always maintain hope. There is always hope in every situation. You just have to look for that little glimmer. For everybody, regardless of whether or not you've got MS, it's time to do it. Whatever it is, find it, start moving forward for it.